The Conor McGregor fight is off, it's cancelled, and the reason being is Conor McGregor is injured. I called it. I believe that it could be an injury, and they've called off the press conference to assess the extent of the injury. I called it. Call me Mr. Shawnee. So for the small part of my audience who are interested in MMA, there's a lot to talk about today. UFC 303 was set to take place on June 29th this month. We've had Conor McGregor pull out due to an injury, and also Jamahal Hill pull out due to an injury. Let's get right into it. Right, so first off, the fight is off. The fight's cancelled. As you can see here, it says Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, targeted for August 31st or late September. I mean, we're not going to believe it until we see it. Everyone's been saying the last few weeks they don't believe this fight is going to happen until Bruce Buffer is announcing Conor McGregor in the cage itself. And it only takes one look at the comments to realise that everyone's public perception of Conor McGregor and this fight in general, it's not going too great. I think people's patience is wearing thin. Now, it's not McGregor's fault that he got injured. Stuff like this happens. I think people are just fed up and they just want to see McGregor fight now. The top comment, anyone else kind of over it? Someone said, this is the new Tony versus Khabib. At this point, who gives a F about these two? Now, Michael Chandler even tweeted this. MMA fact of the day, the amount of times these fighters have pulled out in their fights in their entire careers. Conor McGregor, 0. Michael Chandler, 0. And although that's true, the reason why people are up in arms about this is because the fight has been scheduled to take place for so long, and it's like, when are we going to see this happen? And now that it's being cancelled, I think everyone's just going to forget this and move on. I just feel bad for those who've paid for the hotels and bought plane tickets to go and see this fight. I was almost one of those people, but it's not all bad news because this is the replacement fight. We've got Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka, number 2. The rematch, let's go. This is a great replacement fight. I like this, let's go. And some people are saying that they prefer this fight more. And I've got to say, I'm not disappointed because after Alex Pereira's last fight against Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka's last fight against Alexander Rakic, these two are coming to bring it. And the top comment says it perfectly. Alex is so active, it's actually crazy. He still has a kickboxer's mentality, and that's true. These kickboxers fight so frequently. Often when you hear about these kickboxers coming over to MMA, they have insane records. And let me just put it into context for you. Here we have Alex Pereira's profile. Look at the people who he's fought since he entered the UFC. Apart from his first 2 fights, 6 out of 9 of his fights are against either former or current world champions. Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya ×2, Jan Blachowicz, Jiri Prochazka, Jamahal Hill. He's fighting absolute killers all the time. Alex Pereira is the next big superstar. He headlines UFC 300, and then what? 2 months later, is it? 2.5 months, 3 months later, he's headlining UFC 303. The man's a beast. He's an animal, and he knocks out people cold. And also, his social media is pretty decent these days. Whoever's managing Alex Pereira's social media content, give them a raise. If Alex Pereira could speak English even half as good as Paulo Costa, honestly, he would blow up even more so. It's just that language barrier that's holding him back. Not that he's being held back, but you get me point. From that superstar status and busting into the Western world, he would be so much bigger if he was able to speak English. Anyway, so we got Alex Pereira, Jiri Prochazka. Now, how the first fight went down, pretty entertaining. Very back and forth as well. Jiri Prochazka had his moments in that first fight. He caught Alex Pereira a few times. He was able to take down Alex Pereira, but Alex has just got that nasty left hook and was able to get him in the second round. Now, do I believe this fight goes the distance? No. However, I do think it goes a little bit longer than it previously did. Although I do still think that Alex Pereira is going to come out with the victory here. We've seen Jiri Prochazka in his last fight versus Alexander Rakic. Oh my days. Jiri is an absolute animal. He's a warrior. The shots that he took off Alexander Rakic, who looked great in that fight, by the way, was just insane. But if he fights Alexander Pereira, as Eddie Hall calls him, like how he did Alexander Rakic, it's going to be an early night for Jiri Prochazka. But I think Jiri is going to be able to make some adjustments. It's going to be interesting knowing what adjustments Alex Pereira makes. It's been quite a few months since their last fight. Pereira's going to most likely have better takedown defense. The more time he spends training with Glover Teixeira, the better. And also going back to Jiri Prochazka's last fight against Alexander Rakic, it just goes to show how good Alex Pereira is, being able to KO Jiri Prochazka when Jiri was able to take some hard-ass shots from Alexander Rakic. Alex Pereira, there's just something about his punch, the torque that he gets into it, the power that he possesses, but what an absolute G these two gentlemen are. And can we just give a hand for Alex? I keep going to say Alexander Pereira because that's what Eddie Hall called him, and it's hilarious. Give a hand for Alex Pereira's rate at which he fights. His fight schedule is off the charts. This is what we want to see out of champions. We want to see them fight on a regular basis. You know, Conor McGregor said in the last interview that we covered that he wants to fight 3 times this year. We're now in June and he's being injured. We're lucky if we're going to see him fight once this year, in my opinion. Now, we also know that McGregor doesn't pull out of fights unless it's something serious. He's never pulled out of any fights, and he's fought with multiple injuries in the past. So the fact that he's had to pull out of this fight, no one is going to be more frustrated than McGregor. I can guarantee that. Now, the co-main event on this McGregor card was meant to be Jamahal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg. We know that Jamahal Hill is coming off that knockout loss to Alex Pereira at UFC 300, and Carlos Ulberg is absolutely smashing it right now. He's a teammate of Israel Adesanya's. Great striking, good kickboxing, great fundamentals, fights well on the back foot, good leg kicks, and I believe this would have been a tough fight for Jamahal Hill. I think Jamahal Hill probably would have been able to have got the job done, maybe, although I don't know about Jamahal Hill anymore. I don't know. I need to see his next fight to see how he recovers from that loss against Alex Pereira, because he's not taking that loss well. He's going on a bit of a social media rant recently, complaining, making excuses, saying that Alex Pereira cheated, saying that he didn't even kick Alex Pereira in the cup, and then Alex Pereira closed the distance whilst the referee was assessing the situation. But he's basically just being a bit salty, and look, even if you've got a point, when you've lost a fight, the last thing that you should do is take the loss in a bad manner. The best thing you can do is get another win or 2 wins under your belt and then talk about that loss. People never want to hear about your excuses. As I say, even if they are legit, you best just staying quiet about it and then talk about those reasons or excuses after your next win. Unfortunately, Jamahal Hill's not doing that. He's attacking the fans. He's attacking Alex Pereira. So maybe Jamahal Hill is slightly concussed from that left hook of Alex Pereira. Jamahal needs to take a chill pill. Anyway, this fight is now off and it has been replaced by this fight. Jamahal Hill is out. Anthony Smith is in. Now, if you don't know Anthony Smith, the guy on the left, Anthony Smith is the guy who has got all of the excuses. He's got every excuse in the book. In fact, a lot of people make the joke that Anthony Smith should be the champion and the pay-per-view #1 pound for pound, best in the world. On paper, he's always got an answer to every question and honestly thinks he can beat every fighter in the world. So we really should see Anthony Smith get this win. However, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Carlos Ulberg is still going to get the win. Carlos has had a full fight camp here. Anthony Smith is stepping in on 2 weeks' notice. I don't think that's going to be enough for him. Carlos Ulberg has got that momentum right now. And I've just seen the top comment says, Jamahal is ducking even being on the same card as Alex Pereira. Bro was talking crazy about Pereira and can't even make it to his own fight. Someone said, breaking news, Jamahal Hill out of UFC 303 with a clogged tear duct after crying for 2 months straight about Alex Pereira putting him to sleep. That's a good one. Now, here's the thing, you guys. Jamahal Hill is injured, and this isn't good because he previously injured his Achilles heel. And the question that we had for Jamahal Hill coming into the Alex Pereira fight at UFC 300 was, will Jamahal Hill be ready off that injury? I think he only gave himself about 9 or 10 months to recover from that Achilles heel injury, which isn't a lot. So has he re-injured that Achilles heel? Because if he has, it could spell the end for Jamahal Hill's career, or at least him gaining any momentum again in the future. It's hard to come back from that injury. You can't even rest it properly because you're always walking on it. I've got a cousin who's had the exact same injury, and the recovery for him has been rough. And he doesn't even do any combat sports, but he's done physio, massage, and the way the Achilles tendon heals, it just removes all of your mobility, all of the strength, all of the pliability, and it can snap again very easily. So Jamahal Hill, in our prayers. Hopefully it's not his Achilles heel again. But anyway, I'm still excited for this fight. Anthony Smith, although he makes excuses and people give him a hard time, he is game and he doesn't turn down fights. He pretty much does fight anyone. But I think Carlos Ulberg gets this one done. And make sure you tune in and subscribe because we're still going to cover all the build-up for this event. And we'll make our official predictions closer to the date. Now, this was the former co-main event. It's actually being moved down the card. And now, instead, we've got Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez as the new co-main event. Lads, this is a sick fight. This is a boss fight. Short notice. Brian Ortega is game, as always, can absolutely take a punch, and Diego Lopes is an absolute animal. We watched them, I think it was at UFC 300, fight Sadiq Youssef, and Diego is an absolute brawler. He's got a lot of power, he's got fantastic wrestling, mixes it up nicely, crazy power in his kicks. He's just coming out there to end every single fight. I think Diego, he's one of the hottest new prospects in the featherweight division, against Brian Ortega, who's pretty much an OG now. Now, Brian has struggled slightly with the consistency. He beat Frankie Edgar, but that was in 2018. Lost against Holloway, won against Zombie, lost against Volkanovski, lost against Rodriguez, and then won against Rodriguez. So since 2018, he's only had 6 fights. As I say, just a bit inconsistent. Diego Lopes is an animal. I might actually take Diego Lopes to win this fight. Not my official prediction yet. We will do that soon. But man, this fight card might have actually just got better. Do you know what, right? I've literally just seen top comment. Call me a casual, but the card got better in my opinion. Gotta be honest, I'm not upset at all. And also, some extra news. We might as well cover it whilst we are here. Khamzat Chimaev is now out of his fight with Robert Whittaker, which was set to take place next week, I think it was. And apparently, he's quite sick. Full Violence posted this. Khamzat Chimaev had serious medical emergency. He is once again in the hospital. Prayers up. I have no idea what's going on with Khamzat, but I relate to him with regards to the health issues. Damn, Khamzat is in our prayers. Now, what's meant to happen with this Robert Whittaker fight? I'll show you what. Robert Whittaker is set to face... Who? And if you're wondering who this is, well... yeah, aren't we all? Maybe Robert Whittaker wanted to fight that bad and he was just willing to accept anyone. But would it not be better for Robert Whittaker to just postpone the fight and find a better opponent? Take a look at the middleweight division right here. You're telling me that none of these 15 fighters were available for Robert Whittaker? Robert Whittaker is number 3 in the rankings. This guy, Ikram, he's unranked and he's headlining a UFC fight night. Now, credit to Robert Whittaker, but come on. What are you doing, Bobby Knuckles? You did not have to take this fight. Why didn't you just wait it out? I know that he's went through a whole fight camp and it was probably a grueling fight camp as well, knowing that he was fighting Khamzat Chimaev. But this Ikram guy, let me actually just show you. Now, he's got 15 wins and only 1 loss. But only 2 of his wins have came through the UFC, excluding the Dana White Contender Series, of course. He beat Phil Hawes and then Warlley Alves. Now, Warlley Alves is 14-8. 33 years old, which age-wise isn't that bad. But how the hell is this guy a middleweight? He weighs 186 pounds. He's only 5'11". He could probably make welterweight. I mean, if he got shredded enough, I bet you he could probably even make lightweight as well. But look at the guy's record. He's on a 4-fight losing streak. It's the last guy that this Ikram Aleskarov beat. And he's getting Bobby Knuckles for his 3rd UFC fight. MMA Guru said, most privileged fighters in the history of the sport. Can't tell me otherwise. No one gets opportunities up the rankings after doing nothing like them. And I presume he's on about the Dagestanis and the Russians. And I mean, yeah, someone's just said here, what the hell is this Dagestani privilege? Undeserved fight for Ikram. I hope Bobby chins him in 1 round. Unfortunately, Bobby Knuckles, he isn't that type of fighter. When was the last time Robert Whittaker got a 1st round knockout? Robert rocks his opponents and he catches them, but it's rare that he proper KOs them clean. Also, Robert Whittaker, he does get caught a few times, and when he gets caught, he does get rocked. He hasn't got the best chin in the middleweight division. Now, what he hasn't got with regards to the chin aspect and the ability to take a punch, he makes up for in droves with his skill and his technique. I think Robert Whittaker is going to get this done. But I do think he'll have a little bit of a fight on his hands. You don't ever want to underestimate these Dagestanis regardless. But I'm just curious to know, was it Robert Whittaker who decided to continue with this fight, or did the UFC pressure him into saving this fight card? Because Robert Whittaker is the 3rd in the middleweight division, former champion. He shouldn't have to save this fight card, especially against an unknown, unranked opponent whose last win was against someone who's on a 4-fight losing streak. Surely, out of all the rankings, they had someone better for Bobby Knuckles. I hope Whittaker is getting a fat bag for this. He better be getting a good little pay upgrade. Give him 100 grand for saving this fight card. It's a fight night as well. What the hell's Whittaker doing headlining a fight night card? Crazy. What a world we're living in. I don't know what's going on. So there you go, guys. That is the main MMA news. McGregor and Chandler, that fight is done. We might never even see that fight. Rescheduled for August, September. It might as well be 2025, though, let's be honest. We got Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka, the rematch as the replacement fight. We got a new co-main event, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. And we also got Robert Whittaker fighting some unknown Dagestani next week. Comment your thoughts down below. Do you prefer this new fight card? Do you prefer these fights? Do you think McGregor and Chandler will ever fight? Will he even come back? God knows. Like this video for MMA, boxing, and fighting content in general. Subscribe. We upload every single day. See you tomorrow.